Good evening. Welcome to our meeting this afternoon, or evening, whatever it is at this point. We're at that little juncture. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Very short agenda, but it's a big night for us, and of course for our first capstone we'll be hearing from our superintendent. But I'd like to go ahead and start with number 3. Review and approve 2022-2023 tentative budget. Gina?
Thank you. I have emailed before you, and you have a copy in front of you, the narrative for our tentative budget that we're going to ask you all to approve tonight. Want to hit a few high steps. This is the second part of our 2023 budget for next year. The third part is our working budget, which you all will normally come back and approve after the close of our year when we get our new tax rates. But I'll just hit a few of the high points as we go through this. This budget is based on staffing for students of 9,420, and we are still being held at our 1819 ADA and SEEK, which is at 8725. That's a difference of 695 students. Well, 695 students, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's $2.8 million. So we kind of start off, that's where we start off. And looking at SEEK, SEEK is actually 45% of the revenue in our general fund budget. Taxable tax property, our tax rates, makes up the other 35%. And the rest is just little pieces of money that we put together for our general fund. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our assessments. Our assessments are $6.5 billion. It's an increase of 6% more than it was this current year. So that kind of gives you an idea of where we are. This budget is based on accepting the 4% tax rate. Now, will that raise our rate that we charge currently? That's still up for determination when we get our PDA values in. The state sends us those two after we close the year, so we'll know that soon. Now, you all may have the option of taking the 4% and the rate doesn't change. It's just whatever our assessed values come in at. Looking at Table A talks about a summary of projected revenues. You can see on there the change in general fund. The special revenue account looks like it's down $9.4 million, but it's not really, because they've only really, Katie's website awarded one grant, and that's Title III. So we will still probably get $7-8 million in Title I, IDEA B, and all those. They just haven't been posted yet. That's why they're not included in here. You'll also notice the building fund had a $2.4 million increase. With this last legislative session, we got our fourth nickel matched. So that really made a big difference in our restricted funds we use for building.
Talk about that. Yes.
Okay. The SEEK that this budget is figured on is the 4,100. In Table B, you can kind of see how that affected us. The $879,000 difference, and that's from the transportation funding. We weren't for sure if that was going to happen. We were at about 53%, and we went up to 70, almost 70%. So that's what the difference is with that. And the budget, the building fund equalization of the fourth nickel. The tentative budget, when you look down here, increased by $1.5 million. We projected we had some little more expenses come in. We think our assigned fund balance is going to go down about $500,000. We know our local effort went up $700,000, and with the SEEK difference, the $2.7 million extra in SEEK. Beginning balance, we anticipate our beginning balance being $5.7 million. Next, we'll talk about debt service. Debt service is restricted funds. It comes from capital outlay and building fund. In Table D, it's noted that our principal and interest payments for this school year are $12.8 million. Our revenues from our restricted funds are $18.6 million. This will leave us with an uncommitted balance of $5.8 million next school year. Now, this year, the last capital funds request that we sent to you all had us a balance of this year of $3.1 million. This being an even number year, we don't have to assign that, or if you don't assign it towards something, it has to go to the number one needs on your facility plan. So we don't have to do it this year, but next year we will have to assign it somewhere, or if we're building a project, put those funds toward it.
Is there a date? I know we have to do it next year, but is there a certain date?
June 30th.
June 30th.
at the end of the year. If it's not spent or assigned, moved somewhere, it has to go to the number one thing on the facility report. We talked about the salary schedule changes. There were 2 raises given. The first one we planned on in November and one at the last board meeting. You'll see with the increase in revenue, it changed our situation a little bit different. 89.18% of our general fund is dedicated to personnel expense. That's personnel, fringe, benefits, all those costs. So that
What percent again was that?
89.18. So you can see in Table F, it's a summary of what our actual expenses were in 2021, what our working budget is currently, and what we project our budget to be next year. Table G is kind of a summary of the same thing, but from the draft budget we presented to you in January to the current budget, which is the tentative. You can kind of see the changes that we made in the budgets as it goes down. Fund balance. Want to talk to you fund balance or contingency. If you look on the table we call G, you'll see it looks like it's 2.97. But KDE calculates contingency on general fund expenses and food service expenses, total divided into your contingency. Because food service goes in the negative, general fund has to make up the difference. So KDE, when you figure contingency, you have to add the expenses in general fund and the expenses in food service together, divided by what you budget in your fund, I guess your balance, your contingency, your rate for, and that's how you get your percentage. So that's what the difference is when you look at 2.97, and I'm telling you it's 2.8. The third paragraph down talks about the state we have to have a 2% contingency. And 2% for us is about 1.5 million. In this budget that you're all approving tonight, our contingency is almost 2.1 million. So we're right there. Table H talks about expense as a percent of revenue. I was talking to Billy earlier. It's kind of hard to look at this and see those numbers and not get a little alarmed. But we did a few things. When we talk about the 1920 and you see 105%, that was the year that we purchased the new equipment, the new athletic stuff for Creekside and Brick Crossing High School out of general fund. We were blessed to do that, and that was the first year that COVID hit us. When you look at 2021, you know, we're kind of right there at 102%. But that was the year that COVID hit, that we weren't really in school. And when you look at 21-22, it goes back up again. But we have steep subs this year. We have a lot of extra costs. We allocated teachers thinking those kids would come back. They didn't. We approved them to be Section 7. So those are things that affected us. So when you look at those 4 years, you can't really compare one to the other because different things happen each time. But the tentative budget, we're at 105% revenue over expenditures. And if you kind of look at that difference line, you can kind of see what it's costing us, what COVID is costing us. And it's quite expensive. This budget, you can see on the last page, it talks about the unassigned fund balance and compared to the draft. With the 70% funding for transportation, it did make a big difference, but we're still at 105%. And that is a very conservative estimate on revenues and a very accurate estimate on everything you all passed. We've added school buses back into the grant, into the general fund, the Section 7 that you approved. We anticipated a 5% increase in workers' comp and a 10% increase in property insurance, but it looks like it might have went up a little bit, but we'll talk about that in June, and we've got a plan for that. So, any questions?
This is great.
Thank you, Gina.
Mm-hmm.
Second.
All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 4, superintendent presentation of capstone.
All right.
If you want the lights. think we're good. I think we're good with the lights. Put us in the dark. No. I was just being silly. All right, so really pleased to get an opportunity to share what I would, this project will encapsulate a lot of things that we have encountered through this year. It is working, good deal. So acknowledgments. I really wanted to start with my family because I've been told that your first year of being a superintendent is like none other, and I can report that is true. So for sure that's the case. But on the difficult days, it's definitely been nice to be able to go home to my family. I was also talking earlier in a meeting with Mrs. Brooker and Dr. Carter and Mr. Kopp, and we were talking about just the things about this year that have been, the good things. And one of the things that I talked about was the relationship that we've had as a superintendent board team, and the things that there were countless times where I could just reach out and, hey, here's something that we need to think about, and okay, let's roll. And it just having that wonderful relationship. I appreciate that. Our district leadership team, whether it be our folks at central office, our principals, our assistant principals, Corinda's been a godsend to me for sure. She's kept me on the straight and narrow and kept me from missing appointments and from missing critical emails and those sorts of things. So I have to give a shout out to all of our folks that have helped make this a successful year. And the students and staff of Scott County Schools. I've been witness to a lot of great things that our students and staff have been a part of this year. And, this year specifically, I can think of countless examples where, one of the things that I tried to put out there early was I wanted staff and students to feel, that safety in taking risks. And that's something that we have really seen start to pay off. It's going to carry on with our students as well. The Georgetown Scott County community has been great. I saw Stuart Hughes last night at an award ceremony, Kevin, and we were talking about some different things. And so it doesn't matter where you go, there's different people in the community that have been helpful along the way. My ILP team, again, you'll get to hear a little bit from them, but Dr. Carter's here, Mark Kopp, superintendent of Franklin County Schools, is here as well. Jan Lance isn't here, but she's kind of like my Corinda away from Scott County Schools. She made sure that I stayed on top of the paperwork aspect of the project. And of course, Board Chair Diana Brooker was part of that ILP team, and she was super helpful and really able to inform the committee on some things that maybe the rest of the committee didn't know as much about as she and I did. And then last but not least, I've got colleagues in my cohort 10, and it's been interesting being able to bounce things off them, and it's funny how different things can be in different districts. The next thing I really want to talk about was mission, vision, goals, and beliefs. And really for myself personally, I've really always tried to operate on a few things, and one is every day's an interview. And whatever you do your best. And I've tried to just personally demonstrate love on a daily basis. And that's kind of what's driven me. But one of the things that I feel like from our beginnings as a board superintendent team that we've really talked about was, and I tried to encapsulate it this way, because I realize we will work towards having a more formalized district mission and vision. But for us, from the conversations we've had, I feel like providing meaningful experiences for students to prepare a successful path for their future kind of encapsulates a lot of the conversations that we've had as a superintendent board team, and we've just tried to really expand on and enhance the existing structures and programs that we have in place here in Scott County. I'm going to start off, and it might seem a little bit out of order because there are 7 standards and I'm starting on 2, but really I'm going to just kind of breeze through these first 2 because this is from the professional growth plan. And so this is standard 2, strategic leadership. Excuse me. And Diana's been more involved with the work through this professional growth plan, and this is just some of the things that went with standard 2 that we've kind of worked through, and thinking about the recovery learning plan. I'm trying to just think about different things we've done with the recovery learning plan, and at this point, we've got We've got teachers that have been through the Recovery 1 and Recovery 2 training. We've got Recovery 3 training coming this summer. We made sure that with regard to our benchmark assessments, feedback was given to our district leadership team from teachers about, hey, let's talk through some of this. And it's been interesting as we've gone through the course of the school year how the teacher feedback has gotten less. And a lot of that is just because there's a clarity in communicating the goals and the expectations of that work. And as a result, we're seeing an improvement in those benchmark assessment results. And then the last thing I'll kind of speak to that is the acceleration process. We've seen with schools that really embrace and are committed to the acceleration process, we're seeing great success. Me and Robin were talking, and she's like, there's thinking about Tier 3 kids, and there were 8 out of 10 Tier 3 kids at Stamping Ground Elementary that exited Tier 3 through a lot of this proactive work with acceleration between the interventionist and the classroom teacher, using that same vocabulary and doing a lot of things together that way. Principal visits, that's something that we, that's just something that's gone on both in the fall and the spring. We've had various meetings with OSL. Some that come to mind, I think about our CIAS meetings and PD planning, and then we had an impromptu meeting kind of recently that comes to mind where we talked about our online learning academy. We've hosted district leadership team meetings all year long, and a fan favorite for sure was Brent Allen's presentation on critical conversations that I think about there. The OSL team they've really made every effort to be a resource to our schools, and that's been seen in their involvement in the classrooms, and that's been reported out as far as some of the data they were collecting, as well as some of their involvement in PLCs. And again, that's been focused on at various stages of the year. We also hosted Grow Your Own meetings, and we took a little bit of a different approach with that after winter break, and incorporated and really, I guess, looked at trying to pull in the strengths of everybody that we were seeing. It was kind of right after that conversation that Brent had at DLT where we were like, this is great, we need to share this out. And so then we just shifted our thinking a little bit, and from the feedback we got, it seemed like everybody really liked the change to the way that Grow Your Own went. The next standard for professional growth plan is cultural leadership. And with cultural leadership, some of the things that went within professional growth plan were, meeting with business leaders is one of the things on there. BCT, I'm going to talk about them a little bit more, so I don't want to say too much, but they've been a tremendous partner for us. Various colleges that we've met with, Wedco, and as well as Toyota. We've had multiple meetings with a lot of different business leaders. Personalized birthday cards, excuse me. An idea that I got from Dr. Carter, and we've done it, and we've been doing it, and it's been sometimes I want to say things I shouldn't, but we've been able to do it in a district this big, and again, Corinda, thank you so much for the help on that. The student recognition, staff recognition, I'll never forget Moe's Bakery coming to us when we had those student entrepreneurs that came to that board meeting, and then of course I think about Bobby Gillespie and that board meeting, because he certainly was touched by that presentation. Running on a little bit more on Standard 3, participation in the Chamber of Commerce Public Forum. That was where we had our representative from JAG there, Toyota was there, BCTC, and that was just really a response to talking about ways the community could be more engaged about us helping us be more career ready with the students that come out of Scott County schools. School-related and community events. One that kind of encapsulates both would be the Schoolhouse 5K. That was an event that you'll see a picture of here a little bit later. And last but not least, the participation in the Living Undivided program with the Scott County Community Coalition. And I've still got lasting relationships from that. So going through the standards, Standard 1, strategic leadership. And again, a lot of these things that you'll hear brought up and talked about are things that through the course of this past school year, during my superintendent's report, had come up. So shouldn't be a whole lot new here as far as what's being shared, but we might spend a little bit more time talking on them today. I've got a lot of different things I could give you some information about, and I've tried to pick out some of the more important ones, but I'm only going to talk about a handful of them. So if you've got any questions about any of them, feel free to jump in and ask. The first one specifically is the very first one, attending the State Board of Education board meeting. That waiver, we had House Bill 678 that has swept in, and that is going to make a difference for the entire state of Kentucky when it comes to school construction for the next 2 years. But, the one thing that I feel good about is that if something happens and if we still need this waiver 2 years from now, we've got it in our back pocket. So that gives me some comfort in knowing that. That was certainly not an easy process to get through, but it was one that, the day that as we were marching towards that day, I think I might have told Dwayne, I think this could be just a historic day for Scott County Schools because what it would have given us the opportunity to do. So again, we might need it, we might not. House Bill 678 might keep us in good shape. The second one is one that's really more in its infancy, but I did want to talk about it. And really, you could add, including Bluegrass Electric, you could also add KU, because at this time KU's kind of jumped in here recently in the past week. But the solar energy piece, again, we are very proud of trying to be as efficient as we can in this school district with our energy use. And one of the things that I love about this idea of solar energy, and Dr. Carter could probably speak to it a little bit too because of being in Bowling Green there. I know Warren County has solar energy in a school or two there, and what they found is there's research that supports the fact that you'll see students and those communities that have schools where solar energy is being used, and there's just more awareness of energy use in those communities. And again, I look at the educational component of this, and I'm really appreciative of DT for heading the charge on this and really setting up these meetings so that we can, march towards that possibility in the future for sure. Another one that I wanted to talk about was just the air conditioning on buses, and that was an example of something that even early on, back in I guess this was the fall. In fact, I can't recall if we were even in school at that point, but that was something we started thinking about, and really we were looking at it in terms of really working conditions for our school bus drivers. That you've got the aspect of, it really helps as far as providing a comfort level for the drivers, but then also too, students are comfortable as well, and that's a positive. And in addition to that, there's research out there that would suggest comfortable students are a little bit less apt to, act up a little bit too. So no bus driver's going to be upset with us for that one. The next one is just some pictures, and I really brought this one up because I can remember when I stood there and I was speaking about it, I thought this is going to be great in a couple of years. And then sometime, I don't know when it was, sometime during the course of this school year was when I realized, wait a minute, in 2 years it'll be done, but what's going to happen between then? Because in my mind I was thinking, they'll flip a switch and in 2 years, the whole county is going to have broadband. But I wasn't thinking in terms of the fact that, as they bring some online, we're going to continue to become more and more across the county having that access to broadband. So, it did reshape we really need to be making sure that we're going to be prepared for that. And then that inspired meetings with Spectrum and some other providers in the state to kind of make sure that the programs that were available for low-income families were accessible to our students, so that as access became available, all of our families would be able to utilize it. And that's something that we were very pleased to hear was going to be a very low-cost, and in most cases, a no-cost option for our families. And again, with the Scott County Online Learning Academy coming, this provides more options for students because unfortunately we are limited. If students don't have that access at their homes, then they're not really going to have that opportunity to utilize that if they'd like to. So this opens that up. And I would just say too, outside of the pandemic, schoolwork and the impact of connectivity on that, it's just immense. We've seen it. We ended up getting a little bit better access way out in the sticks where we live, and it's certainly made an impact for my children that attend school here in Scott County Schools. Next is instructional leadership, And with instructional leadership, again, just wanted to kind of pick some different ones that I felt like might be worth really diving deep into. You know, the very top one there gained important insight from students during the EL program at Creekside. You know, that was a great opportunity for students to really celebrate diversity, and for those students that, you know, that it was interesting because they got to be stars of the program, and you know, some of the information that they shared was just, some of the writing was personal and from the heart, and it just was bone chilling to me to hear some of the stories of what these students went through to get here. The next one, the BCTC meetings, you know, that BCTC, now might be a good time to say that BCTC has been just a phenomenal partner. I cannot speak highly enough of BCTC, you know, where you'll find sometimes there's people that, I've always said sometimes, you know, I'm going to work with you or I'm going to work around you, and BCTC is one of those that you don't have to work around. They're certainly coming to the table to work with you, and they're going to make sure if there's a problem, it's a how can we get through this together, and they've been great. Something that's also kind of come to the surface here recently that fits along with that is we've been working with the masters of, I can't remember, the KAMC group, the Master Construction group that basically we're working with their HVAC side of that, and it looks like we're going to be able to offer, and next year will be small, probably 6 to 10 kids, students to have an opportunity to start working towards their HVAC certificate before they get out of school. So we're really excited about that, and that's, again, just something that's come to the forefront here just recently. I'll drop down to NTI 3.0, as we've called it, and that's just that's one where we've tried to be responsive to the board, the community, everybody, to try and make NTI for next year be just a little bit more of what everybody feels like we need with NTI days. The top right, created long-term professional development plans as part of CIAS team. Super excited about that because that's where, you know, APL is back. So for all of the people that know about oldies but goodies, that's an oldie but goodie that we'll be bringing back to the table this summer. I've talked a little bit to Diane about it, but you know, student achievement reports, we kind of had a process before this year, and that process has evolved, and I've really appreciated that because it's given me an opportunity to really get more in the data, and you know, so there's been opportunities where we would, before board meetings, really get into, okay, what's going into this presentation, and I've had a little bit more of an impact on that, and I don't know, it's given me an opportunity really to, I don't know, have more stronger relationships, I guess, with our student learning team. You know, I think about Paul and his presentation with the impact survey results. You know, and then I think about specifically, you know, Robin and Tabitha's presentation, and so that's something that certainly I'm looking forward to us having the opportunity to do more of as we go along. I got invited with Damon Stefanik. He invited me to help out with his employability skills piece at the ECS Connect 2021, and that's a picture there. And then in that second picture, I mentioned it, I think, at the board meeting the other day, but I finally got a chance to witness Jim McKee with his inspirational speech. I think he started off talking about some stray dog on the side of the road and somehow swung around, and it didn't, you know, you had people just sitting there with eyes welling up, but it was great. Dr. Hub always talked about how well he did with those, and it was certainly great to see, and those kinds of things certainly seem to come at the right time when you need a little lift. And then a tradition that we've had in Scott County for multiple superintendents back is just that first day of school, going around and visiting all the schools with our leadership team, and that's just you know, something that you always look forward to. There's proof. I mentioned it in the left-hand side there. I mentioned it at the employee awards. I told them that I played a ukulele, and they didn't believe me, but there you go. And special thanks to Mr. Bond for allowing me to play alongside at our site visit at Scott County Middle School. And then on the right-hand side there, in my spare time, I've gotten certified as a NASP archery instructor. So I got to go to Western Elementary and share a little bit of what I knew there, and that was really a great time. And it was interesting because sometimes, I'm not familiar for sure of everybody's kids. Well, I was wondering if somebody was going to key in and I'm facing the wrong direction. Yeah. I did not just release an arrow. Everything's good there.
Hang on, next picture.
Yeah, don't let the Georgetown, your buddy, get a hold of that one. He'll have a field day. Cultural leadership is the next one, and we've talked a little bit about that one, but a few that I wanted to kind of throw out there. And one really, again, one of the things that I try to be really cognizant of is I want to know what I can do better. And the second one down, we went and met, Renee went with me, and we met with the Georgetown Kiwanis group, and I spoke to them, and I was really focused on sharing some things that we were, some upcoming plans of some things we were dealing with and some challenging situations that we were facing. But I missed the opportunity that really existed within that meeting to key in on some really great things that we had going on at the time. And so it really, that meeting served as because we talked about it afterwards, and as far as the speaking part, it was all fine, but again, just missed an opportunity there, and so I put that on there because that one was certainly a meeting that I'll remember because it'll help me make sure that I'm framing the focus the right way as we move forward. A couple down from that, Black History Month lessons and celebrations, Royal Spring Middle School. We got to talking about what they had going on, and it just so sometimes things, the way they happen, is just amazing. And we walked out of the office after we were just talking about it, and the kid that inspired one of the things that Heather Brown was doing at her school just happened to walk by, and we were like, oh, and she's like, hey, we haven't had a chance to show you. So she got to show him on the wall, like, here, this was the suggestion that you had made about what we should do. And it was just, to see just that authentic, that just appreciation on his face. It was a powerful moment. And then Scott County High School, they had a wonderful celebration at their school that I attended. I believe Mayor Prather was there as well for that, and they'd opened that up to some of the community, and that was a wonderful, wonderful celebration as well. The third one down on the right, I always, gaining insight from community at an LBAR meeting, and it's always interesting how perspective shapes us. Because I can go to that kind of meeting, and the kinds of questions you get are geared towards what a realtor would want. But it's always interesting to see how many perspectives there are out in the community and all the different things that we've got to be cognizant of as a superintendent and board team. And the one below that, I'm not going to hit it too hard, but COVID wasn't a good dance partner this year, but we danced with her when we had to. Some pictures on the left there is great weather at the Schoolhouse Champions 5K event. Again, that was an event where all the proceeds go to the school that whoever participates in it designates. So there were our schools, St. John's was there. I can't remember if Providence had anybody. Okay, I couldn't recall if they had anybody there or not.
This year,
They have in the past, yeah. And I'd like to thank Shelley Green for saying, hey, this would be something that would be good for you to participate in. And she's our receptionist here at Central Office, and I really appreciate her sharing that. And, on the right-hand side there is that was the first assembly after coming back from being virtual that I went to, and it was the first one that they had at Garth. And I remember we were asking ourselves questions like, wait a minute, where do we line them up at? They basic things that you just know because year to year you just do them, and then it was like, wait a minute, how do we used to do this? So it was just kind of neat on the inside to kind of see. I didn't eat any donuts. I was a judge. I got to heckle a little bit. The next group of pictures are just, these are opportunities we've had throughout the school year to show appreciation to staff. The district teacher and employee of the year presentations, and then this past week we had the 2022 employee awards program. And again, these always seem to come at the right time when I need just a little bit of rejuvenation. Next is that's the school lunch week at Western serving, and then I've been to a number of schools doing some readings, and that's always fun too, and interesting to see some of the questions that sometimes come up from that. Again, there's the Moe's Bakery kids on the left there, and Bobby there on the right from some recent board meetings. And then next we'll get into human resource leadership. So here I would say, let's see, the fourth one down as far as the Assistant Superintendent of Student Learning, super excited to get Stephanie Emmons here and started. She'll start half days here in the next little bit, and then I know she's got a vacation towards the end of June, and then July 1 she'll start full tilt, so we're excited to have her. On the top right there, the College University President's School Superintendent Summit through Bluegrass Tomorrow and the Bluegrass Higher Education Consortium. That was a platform for really school superintendents to talk to universities and college presidents to just kind of give them some boots on the ground information and some awareness about the types of hiring challenges we were having. This was back in, I think, October, November. So this was something that happened, even prior to some of the additional challenges that everybody in education has been facing as far as hiring. And then the last one that I'll speak of is in the very bottom right, the Houchin Section 125 benefits transition, and that's one of those that the number of people I talked to that were able to save money through that transition, or the money that they saved that allowed them to get additional benefits from their family. That was one of those that, again, sometimes you have things that don't necessarily make the biggest headlines, but they make a big difference, and that was one of those for sure that comes to mind as being something great for all staff. So here, this is just a picture of Grow Your Own, and the only thing I really wanted to point out here was that one of the things too, in addition to what we've kind of done with Grow Your Own and some of the tweaks with it, is the fact that Damon Stefanik, he initiated a classified Grow Your Own this year, specifically for classified staff. And again, one of those examples of somebody taking a risk and doing something a little bit different. And I think that there are things that we learned from that we'll be able to improve on for next year. But it was certainly a hit, the one that I was able to attend. Next up is managerial leadership. And so Gina got up here and talked a little bit on that top one on closely monitoring general and title fund budgets. And, this is one that, we've talked a lot collectively and in private conversations about, wanting to do as much as we can possibly do for our staff. And, part of that monitoring budgets is really just trying to get an understanding for what can we do. And, recently, the board approved raises for Scott County Schools employees, and other districts have done other things. And a superintendent I know in a different district they did something, I think it was maybe referred to as historic in their district. And one of the things about that came to mind was the fact that, I reached out recently to KDE, and I talked to the Department of Ed, and I said, look, we're always talking about the fact that, we understand that you want to be careful how much of your general fund budget you're putting towards salaries. And as you all heard, 89.18, I believe, was the number that was shared by Gina today. That's exceptionally high. But one of the things I didn't have a good frame of reference on was how that number related to other districts. So I had Jay Ritter get with some of his people in his department there and with KDE, and he got some numbers together for me. So you can't do it on school years that aren't complete. This school year is not complete. Last year was the most recent school year to be completed. Out of 171 districts, when you look at what percentage of your budget is spent towards salary from your general fund budget, what percentage is spent towards salary, only 2 districts in the state spent more of their general fund budget on salary than Scott County Schools. Jefferson County and Harlan Independent. So that means 168 districts spend less of their overall budget, general fund budget, on salaries than we do. And I simply bring that up for you all, because I know you all are the ones that are getting questions and comments and things, just as I am. And I just felt like that would be some good information for you all to hear, to have at the ready, because again, it speaks to the fact that we are doing absolutely everything we can with what we've got before us. And again, I'll go back to, I talked to other districts and other districts doing other things, and again, not every district's a growth district, but another thing too is where I said that, our number is 89%, a district I know that's done quite a bit in their district, they're only at 67. So when 67% of your district budget is allocated towards salaries, you got a little bit of room there, a little bit of wiggle room. We don't have that wiggle room. So again, I commend you for what you all have done, and I appreciate your all's trust in Gina's leadership in that area for sure. Next, the third one down, restructured student services department, and I'm super excited to see. Robin, just the past few days, has been having meetings with some of our EL teachers, and it's just been neat to see her getting to add another component to what she does, and I'm super excited to see when we get Lizzie Andel started, see her get rolling with her assistant director piece of that. I see the word COVID 4 times. I'm not going to say anything other than we all know it was a part of this year, unfortunately, and we are moving on. Last thing I will say too, related to that, is Test to Stay. Test to Stay. I'm just super thankful that fund. That somebody had the foresight to put that funding in for that, because that had a tremendous impact on keeping students in school. Well, there you go. Had to get that in there. That's a Scott County staple. Energy Star Partner of the Year. And then Standard 6 Collaborative Leadership. So some of these I was going to speak to you a little bit about. Really, there's a few of them that kind of tie together. Visited with Franklin County Public Schools and Mark Kopp. I got to go to their board meeting and see what their board meetings were like. I'd been a number of years since I'd been there. 14 years of my career was spent in Franklin County, so there was some familiarity there, but there was some difference too, and it was neat to get a chance to kind of see how board meetings can be similar and different. And we got to talk through that on the backside, and that was super beneficial. We were able to connect Franklin County Schools with BGO just to have some conversations about how we've got our athletic trainer situation structured, because that's a tremendous savings the way that we have that structured. So again, that's just an example of us kind of collaborating on some things. And then I didn't put it on here, but the Battle of Elkhorn Creek football, I guess the bowl kind of event that we had this past fall. Franklin County was a part of that, and we really enjoyed their participation in that. And I think all schools benefited from that financially for the funds that they were able to raise during that.
You said we're going to host that again?
I sure hope so.
That was the last we talked about was we felt like it came out very favorable for everybody, from the fundraising aspect of that. So yes, and it was neat. It's been neat for me too, because Mr. Kopp had more of a closer relationship with Dr. Hub when Dr. Hub was there. It's been neat to get a chance to really get to know him and to get to bounce things off of him and just really have somebody just down the road that you can reach out to, that if you really needed something, you could even go down there if you needed to. Speaking of people that have been really helpful to me, when I talk about I think the fifth one down there, participated in the National Weather Service winter storm briefings. That, Harry Burchett is the superintendent in Harrison County, and Harry Burchett has a background in Eastern Kentucky and Johnson County. And so he brought this to the table as, hey, well, at the winter storm briefing, and we're like, what are you talking about, the winter storm briefing? it is awesome. The information you get from that is, I'm telling you, and it's EMS people there, and you got school superintendent. And it's just the coolest thing ever. So I had to give a nod to the fact that he pulled that out for us, and I've really been appreciative because it gives you it gives detailed information too on like, okay, it's going to hit you at this time and you at this time, and so sometimes it's a little more detailed than me and Skip would get in the past when we'd be calling Bowling Green and he'd be, hey, what's going on over there? Can y'all tell me what's going on? Y'all know Skip. Oh shoot. Anyway, I could just, hey, hello. I have to call Skip, tell him I was picking on him. Yeah. On the right-hand side, the third one down, the Living Undivided, that I'm really thankful that Alonzo Allen put that together. The lasting relationships that have come from that. We've had a few things that have happened in the past school year in which I've reached out to some different people that I only knew through being a part of that program, and it headed off some things that really could have been problematic that in the end weren't. And so I really am thankful for being able to be a part of that, and I expect that that'll be something that the community will continue to do, and we will continue to send folks from Scott County Schools to be a part of that. The next one, I've already talked about BCTC and what a great community partner they are. Dr. Akokpo with BCTC, I don't know that I've talked a little bit about him, but he's been great about coming to the table and being willing to do different things as well. And then the agenda meetings that I've had with Mrs. Brooker ahead of the board meetings to really make sure that we, anything, there have been times where I think that our common understanding on something is the same, and she's like, oh, let me talk to the board about that, make sure we're all on the same page here. So, there have been different things that we've kind of that we've been able to head off at the pass through having those meetings, and that's been super helpful, and I've appreciated that opportunity as well. Got some pictures on the next one, and the one on the right again, that was something I got to commend DT and Renee for all their work on that one, because that $32,000, that was what we were just getting, and really nobody was putting a whole lot into that. So we wanted to, by having a check presentation, it was really just to kind of say, hey, this is a thing, and this is something people in the community can be a part of, so to just draw awareness to it. And I thought that was just a really nice event, and Kroger were great partners, and they're eager to continue to grow on that partnership. And then on the right-hand side, I think it was, my official first day was the 1st of December, and then the 6th we're on stage with Toyota and Jag and BCTC talking about building a better workforce, and that was a wonderful experience, and it was good to get to hear from people in the community talk about our community's needs. WEDCO, we had a few times that I can recall prior to March of 2020 when WEDCO would be involved with us, but Krista Miller was a great partner, and we were certainly blessed, especially from what I had heard from other districts as far as some of the relationships that they did or didn't have with their local health department. So again, tremendously blessed to have her, and she was willing to listen, and sometimes there'd be times where maybe she wasn't on the same page, but a lot of times she would listen and we could get her there. So the last one is influential leadership. And with this one, I'd like to really hit a couple of things here. The first one would be just I mentioned the KDE waiver, so I'm not going to talk a lot about that. But then there's the top, the second one from the top on both sides, meeting with Senator Thayer and HB 678. Dwayne and I had a meeting summer before, I guess not this, I guess last summer, with Damon Thayer, and we talked about a lot of different issues, and some of them were growth district struggles, some of them were tied to other funding kinds of issues, and then the last was school facilities. And 100% that conversation certainly was able to bear fruit with House Bill 678. I mean, it's 100%. That was crystal clear with the way that House Bill 678 rolled out, and the different superintendents that were reaching out asking for me to talk to Damon about it. And when I talked to him after the fact, he was like, look, you did a great job. You and Dwayne did a great job of really telling me what kind of struggles and really laying it out so that I understood what you were dealing with. So he was a super helpful partner with regard to that. Fourth one down on the right, participation in local education cooperatives. CKEC, our involvement with CKEC, KEDC has been great too, but CKEC is really focused more on Central Kentucky. So you got a lot of different school districts that are dealing with the same kinds of things that we're dealing with. And those relationships have been great. Throughout the pandemic, we had every week on Wednesdays, we had a Zoom at 9 a.m. And it was just a standing meeting, and everybody knew it. And if you could be there, great. And if you couldn't, that's fine too. And it was amazing how that seemed to really galvanize the group. And we're coming out of that situation, and now going into board meetings that I'm learning are normal. They got shade tables set up. I'm like, oh, this is how it always was. Like, okay, great. But it's been good because it's really helped us to again have a leg up when it comes to things we're dealing with, and I can reach out and say, hey, what's going on with you all, or how are you all handling this, or are you seeing this? And so that's been a partnership that I'm super, super, super appreciative of. And then Representative Pratt, he's been great as well, and we don't, again, we're not always going to see eye to eye with our representatives and our senators about every issue, and I understand that, but I also understand, they understand that we're going to have different asks as well. But what's been great is they've always realized that, they'll answer the call, they'll open the door, and we're able to have meaningful conversations. And maybe it doesn't always bear fruit, but the door's always open for us to come back to have another conversation at another day. So, and then the last thing, EKU's dual credit, the bottom left there. Had a chance to meet with President McFadden. I believe that was in December, and we were able to share our perspective on pathways and different things with dual credit and the ways that, again, we've got a model partnership with BCTC, and we were able to share some of the things. Sorry, I didn't click ahead on that one. We were able to share some of the things that we're working in other partnerships to try and make a difference there. Couple more pictures for you there. I can't recall what that specific meeting is there on the left. But then the one on the right there is, of course, the state of education that we had at Cardone. And then next steps. Certainly I'm really excited to get a chance to support our new assistant superintendent of student learning when Ms. Emmons gets in the door and gets on board, and we're able to march through. And again, I go back to the fact that a lot of her experiences that she has had previously really line up really well with some of the things that we're wanting to do. The top 3 things on the left-hand side there specifically are all things that she and I spoke specifically about. Again, mission and vision work, that's something that I referenced at the beginning. Graduate profile work, I haven't really talked a whole lot about that, but that's something that, again, we're looking to do, and it's a way to galvanize our entire district to really be focused on some of the same skills that we can talk from preschool all the way up through graduation and have a common language there. Pathway considerations, we've got some great pathways. We might be able to improve some of those, and there's some additional pathways that we probably will want to consider. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to having conversations with her about. Talk to her a little bit about the KAMC piece as we were talking through instructors for that and making that work. Kudos to Damon Stefanik with the exit interview. We're going to look at refining an exit interview, because what we're wanting to find out is, everybody I think has an idea of why people might be leaving the district or leaving the profession, but we want to know. So with that, we've really been refining our exit interview so that it can really drill down and identify the types of things that we wanted to identify, and that helps you all be more informed too. If I come to the table with some sort of idea or request, that way we're going with sound data. The feasibility of construction bid, that's something we're working through at this time, and certainly after we have a chance to get through that, that'll help us in better being able to develop our planning needs for our facilities after that time. On my page, I've circled the high school scheduling because I feel like that's going to be, there's a lot to that, but that has the potential to be just a tremendously impacting measure that we might be able to do something with. But again, it's got implications on budget, student opportunity, and working conditions that we can all kind of think through. And then the last thing that I put on there was opening the Online Learning Academy. And that should, again, we'll open that up on June 2nd as far as the application process for that. Again, I could list more, but these were kind of things that are pretty big that we're working towards, and again, just wanted to kind of share some of those. And then the last I've got is just, I want to thank you all. You all have been really and truly, it's been a pleasure to work with the board. It's been a pleasure to be the superintendent of Scott County Schools. Again, hasn't been without challenges this year, but every year's going to have challenges, and it's nice to know that we can lean on each other and work through these challenges together. So that would conclude my capstone presentation. I believe Dr. Carter and Mr. Kropp have some information to share as well.
All right, everyone stand up for a second. No, I'm serious. Please stand up. The attorney's the only one that doesn't listen to me. All right, I just wanted you to stand up for a second. We've been sitting for a while. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for letting me come and speak with you. And I'll keep my remarks brief. You've got a wonderful superintendent in Mr. Parker. Billy has done a fantastic job this year, and I've really enjoyed being his superintendent mentor. I have learned probably as much from him as he has from me, and I think that's the whole goal of the mentor-mentee relationship. We've had multiple conversations throughout the course of the year over things like football games and instructional leadership and formative assessment and snow days. All of the things that you go through as a superintendent. I want you to know, my first year as superintendent 5 years ago was a challenging year, but it doesn't come close to what first year superintendents this year had to deal with. The worldwide pandemic, obviously, I don't even say the name of it anymore, but it's not monkeypox, I promise you. It goes without saying the challenges that brings in and of itself. But when you also look at all of the political situations that superintendents have to deal with, and masks or no masks, and raises for employees, and all of those things touch all of us. And to be a first-year superintendent and have to deal with that, very, very challenging. And he's just done a remarkable job. I think one of the things that I'm an optimist. I'm a glass half full person, always have been, and I think you really, truly have to be in this position. And I think you've got a great optimist. I'm a member of the Optimist Club, believe it or not, and I would encourage you to join that if there is one here in Scott County. But I do want to keep my remarks brief, but I do want to say this. Billy is so respected by other superintendents already, and that's something that's hard to do. But we've attended many of the same conferences together, KSBA, the Education Law and Finance Institute, and the way you see him interact with other superintendents, everyone truly respects what Billy has to say because they understand it's genuine. And he's optimistic, but he's also genuine, and he really cares about the kids in this community. Instructional leadership is something that we've focused on a lot this year. We've had multiple discussions about things like formative assessment and a balanced assessment system and instructional practices and different programs. And to be able to have those conversations during this year has been impressive because of everything else that Billy's had to do. And I think Dr. Carter will probably mention, and you all know how many days that this new superintendent program required Billy to be outside of the district. I know when I did it, it was 20 plus days that you have to be away, and the whole time you're away, you're just constantly getting bombarded on your phone with issues and problems and situations that you do every day. But you take that time and you develop relationships with your fellow first-year superintendents, and it's such a rewarding experience. I can't stress that enough. So You have a great one. I have a deputy superintendent job open. I would love to steal Billy and bring him back to Franklin County, but I've already been told by the board chair that that's not going to happen. So I appreciate that. I actually did steal the assistant finance person, and I want to thank you, Gina, for allowing me to take Teresa. But seriously, you all are blessed, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have a collaborative partner like Billy moving forward as we're both going to grow with our districts. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Carter right now.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Mr. Kopp for serving as a mentor this year, and I'll tell you something that might not surprise you. I'm a retired superintendent. I've been doing this for 11 years. I've served as the executive coach for 247 new superintendents. And during that time, when I've called people to ask them to serve, if they would agree to serve as a mentor, every single one has said yes immediately. And that says a lot about the profession. That says a lot about how much he actually expects to learn as well as to teach during the year, and that's what's occurred. One of the first things I like to say is, Mr. Parker, congratulations. You have successfully completed all aspects of new superintendent training. So, and that's not an easy thing to do. As Mark mentioned, there's a whole lot of time involved in that. There's a whole lot of hard work involved in that. Projects, there's e-portfolio work to do, there's the capstone to get together. There's a lot of things he has to do written work in terms of that, as well as being out of the district about 20 days. If you look at that as working days, that's a full month. In the past year, he's been with me and with the other new superintendents. So expect him to be here from now on and to not be out nearly as much. I'm excited for him. I'm excited for this district about what the future looks like, because lots of good things are going to happen going forward. He has represented you well. You will not be surprised to learn that, just as Mark stated, he has high respect from the other new superintendents and also the other experienced superintendents. He has hit the ground running, is what he has done. And I'm kind of an old-fashioned person. I like to say in Kentucky we have horses, and I think I may have shared this with you before, but as a board, you can hire one of two kinds of horses. You can hire a work horse or a show horse. And from my perspective, a show horse is a superintendent who wants to win Superintendent of the Year and wants to get all the accolades. I didn't do it tonight, but I started to make a tick mark every time this guy said somebody else's name when he was talking about what had happened in the district this year. And I'll tell you, when we've met this year, he has not been slow to mention what a great team he has here in this county. And he gave credit again tonight. He's not a me person. This is about me. It's about we, and it's about this county. And that's where I would want it to be. I would say to the board, yes, you have hired an outstanding young superintendent. Keep him happy, keep his nose to the grindstone, make him work hard for you. He will. Have those hard conversations with him, but keep him, because it's hard to keep superintendents in those roles. We already have 22 vacancies in Kentucky for next year, and it's probably going to only go up. It's a tough situation, but you have a good superintendent, an excellent superintendent. You have a superintendent who is an even better person than he is a superintendent. So again, congratulations. My hat's off to you. He'll receive his official certificate on July 27th in Louisville, and we'll shake hands with the commissioner, and I'll send forward the paperwork to renew his superintendent certification, which we signed earlier. And I'm excited for this county. This is a county that surrounding counties look to with a bit of awe because of your size and what you're doing, and also with respect. I shared with them earlier that I was in a school board meeting in Fayette County last night, and guess what they said from the podium? The board was talking about, well, what was that bid that Scott County got on that building project? So you guys were being discussed in Fayette County school board meeting last night. And that's kind of a mark of respect. You want to be in a discussion rather than out of the discussion, whether it's about instruction or whether it's about construction or whether it's about the excellence of the team that's being assembled here. and the excellence of the board that is running the district. And I hear that in spades. So congratulations, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen, for speaking on behalf of Bill LaCourse. I appreciate that greatly. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Number 5.
I move to enter the executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810-1K and KRS 156.776 for purposes of preliminary discussion relating to superintendent evaluation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We will exit this meeting and head into executive session. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, discuss and adopt summative evaluation of superintendent pursuant to KRS 156.557, paren 6, close paren.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Right?
Yes, I'm just waiting for somebody else.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank